Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has turned on the fasten seatbelt sign. If you haven't already done so, please make sure the volume of this podcast is set perfectly to your listening enjoyment. Please take your seat, whether that's on the treadmill, car, sofa, or bed, and buckle in for the last trip. My name is Jamie Beebe, and I'll be your tour guide, recreating someone's last days in paradise. On behalf of myself and everyone behind the scenes, please enjoy the Last Trip podcast. And because nobody likes a long flight to get to where they want to be, let's prepare for takeoff. Leo Widicker was spending his retirement traveling and helping others by volunteering and doing missions with his church group. He was 86 years old and on his 41st mission in Costa Rica with his wife, Virginia, when he suddenly and mysteriously vanished from the Tabacon Hot Springs Resort in November of 2001. Within 15 minutes of his disappearance, people were searching for him, but there was never a single clue found. What happened to Leo Widicker? I've talked about Costa Rica in some other episodes, so I want to tell you more specifically about the Tabacon Hot Springs Resort, the resort Leo disappeared from, because I actually stayed at the same resort when I went to Costa Rica a few years ago. It's a well-known resort and hot springs destination located in the Arenal region of the country, right near the town of La Fortuna. It's situated at the base of Arenal volcano, and the views are absolutely stunning. La Fortuna is a small touristy town, about a 3-hour drive from San Jose, and it holds the Arenal volcano, which towers over the town and is quite magnificent on a clear day. There are amazing hot springs throughout the resort that are naturally heated by the geothermal activity of Arenal volcano. And the resort features a series of thermal pools and waterfalls surrounded by beautiful gardens. And these thermal mineral springs coming from the volcanic earth are said to have amazing healing properties. The water naturally forms waterfalls, streams, tranquil pools, and ponds that people can venture into while they visit. There are both man-made normal water pools and the natural springs that are heated by the volcano. The man-made pools have normal pool bottoms, and the natural areas have natural floors. So you'll probably want to bring your swim shoes, not only to walk around in, but also for those natural pools. The springs range in heat from about 72 degrees to 105 degrees, and the styles of pools are all different as well. From sitting under a waterfall to a normal pool area to climbing over waterfalls. The depth of the water ranges from about 1 foot to about 3 feet, all with crystal clear water. But how did Tabacon become the resort it is today? In the 1980s, an architect and nature lover fell in love with the area and convinced the local owners to sell him the land. He then found some investors that loved his vision of a wellness center and spa concept. It centered on the idea of a natural encounter. Finally, in January of 1991, he started building his dream. It took 2 years of transforming marshlands, giving the river more form, and cultivating the plant species to start the process. The restaurant and kitchen were expanded, changing facilities were added, a small spa was built, and then in April 1993, Tabacon was opened as a day destination. And it grew popular very quickly. So much so that in 1997, Tabacon was inaugurated with 42 comfortable guest rooms. And this marked the official beginning of Arenal as an international vacation destination. Now, this 5-star resort has luxurious rooms and suites, and the accommodations are designed to provide comfort and luxury, with many different types of rooms offering views of the volcano or the surrounding rainforest. There's also fine dining, wellness activities, and even some private hot springs to enjoy. Nearby, there's ziplining, hiking, birdwatching, and you can explore the Arenal Volcano National Park. If you're staying at the resort, you have full access to the thermal river and its pools, and exclusive access to the Shangri-La Gardens, which is adult-only and definitely worth it if you're looking to relax in peace and not be splashed by children. The price tag is not super budget friendly, with standard rooms starting at around $350 and rising up from there. If you're not staying at the resort, you can still get a day pass to enjoy the accommodations, which will run you just under $100 each for the day. Leo and his wife, Virginia, along with the rest of their volunteer group, were building and painting schools and churches when they stopped at Tabacon for a little relaxing after a day of work. The same thing many groups do, only something went terribly wrong this time. The group was a pay-your-own-way volunteer organization called Maranatha Volunteers International. The mission statement says, Maranatha spreads the gospel throughout the world as it builds people through the construction of urgently needed buildings. It's a nonprofit responsive organization that works in conjunction with the Seventh-day Adventist Church to provide strong, dignified structures for worship and education. So Maranatha constructs churches and schools around the world through short-term mission trips. The average trip length is about 10 to 14 days, and volunteers must be willing to fund their own travel and lodging. Once there, volunteers not only work on the construction site, but also organize service activities such as medical clinics and educational programs for children. They consider themselves kind of like a Christian Peace Corps. In 1969, a man named John Freeman decided he wanted to take his family on a mission trip, specifically so his daughters would have an opportunity to understand the value of service. The concept of a short-term mission project wasn't new, but Freeman put a twist on it. He wanted everyone who was going to fly their own planes. John was an amateur pilot, so he contacted all the private pilots he knew and asked them to fly down with volunteers to build the 8 Mile Rock Seventh-day Adventist Church in Grand Bahama. So that first trip was a small team of 28 young people who flew to the Bahamas over Christmas break and built a church. The Widickers joined and started doing these mission trips in 1977, loving it so much that they continued doing it throughout their lives. And guys, volunteer tourism is a pretty fun and exciting way to travel and help people at the same time. It's basically combining traveling and volunteering, usually traveling to a less developed foreign country to volunteer for a few weeks or months, and can be done solo or in groups. And volunteering can vary widely, from tutoring children in Nepal to conducting nutrition workshops in Thailand to traveling with a church mission group to dig wells in the Philippines. Volunteers usually don't need to be a specific age or have a certain visa to participate, and they often receive free accommodation and sometimes free board in exchange for their work. However, most are still responsible for paying their own travel, including flights and transportation, meals and lodging, and fees to the organizations and programs they support. But in your free time, you can see the sights and explore the country you're volunteering in. It's a win-win for a lot of travelers, and sounds pretty exciting to me. And that's exactly what Leo and Virginia Widicker were doing in Costa Rica when the unthinkable happened, and Leo vanished. Let's jump in and get to know Leo and Virginia Widicker.
Are you into podcasts about missing people, cold cases, and true crime? I'm Renee Robertson, host and creator of the podcast Missing in the Carolinas. The show is an original podcast that features people you might have heard of, such as Heather Elvis, who went missing from South Carolina in December of 2013, and others you might not have heard of, like Enrique Roman Martinez, who disappeared while camping with fellow soldiers from Fort Bragg at the Cape Lookout National Seashore Memorial Day weekend 2020. I also dig deep into the news archives for stories like Diane Gabriel, the North Carolina real estate agent who vanished after making an appointment to look at a house on the shores of Lake Norman in 1983. Look for Missing in the Carolinas wherever you get your podcasts.
Virginia Widicker was born on August 30th, 1926, on a farm near Hertzfield, North Dakota. She was the middle child out of 7 siblings and attended a small country school, graduating in 1944. That fall, she enrolled at Union College in Lincoln, Nebraska, to start classes for a career in nursing, which was quite a popular career for women in those years. In the spring of 1946, she came back from college in Lincoln to spend the summer on her parents' farm, but instead found herself working as a cook on the Widicker farm. It was a huge grain and cattle farm in Bowdoin, North Dakota, and that's where she met Leo Widicker. He was about 11 years older than her, and the two hit it off instantly. It was love at first sight, the kind you find in those country romance novels. They met that summer and were married a few short months later on November 4th, 1946. Virginia used to joke that after that day she arrived on the farm, she never left. The couple lived at the farm and continued to operate it throughout their lives. Virginia kept busy with the lawn, garden, cooking, and really everything that goes with farm life and being a farmer's wife. She was also an accomplished seamstress and loved to knit. Leo was a workaholic. Working on the farm was everything he knew, and he loved it. In fact, he worked well into his 80s before finally retiring. His only other hobby was traveling. By the time the couple went to Costa Rica in 2001, they had been married for 55 years. It was a true love story. They raised 4 children, and their daughter Joanne later said, "They are so compatible. I came from a family that didn't fight. I would be hard put to tell you the 3 or 4 times my folks fought." And the couple were definitely compatible in their love of travel and helping others. So joining Maranatha Volunteers was a no-brainer. They had gone on 40 mission trips throughout the years, making Costa Rica their 41st. The farm did well through the years, and they wanted to give back to the world. So even though they had to pay their own way and work on these trips, they loved it. They had journeyed all around the world with the organization, and after retirement, they spent even more time on these missions. The trips became a way for Leo to travel and enjoy retirement while still working with his hands. He spent most of his time on the trips doing bricklaying and cleaning up the mortar from around the bricks. Now, Leo wasn't known for his construction skills, but he liked to call himself a gopher boy, doing the manual labor. And Virginia honed in on her skills at doing the finishings on the brickwork. The couple was well known and well loved by others they traveled with. They had made friends all over the world, and they both felt their time helping people was well spent. Before they flew to Costa Rica on this last trip in November of 2001, Leo had some health problems. He was 86 years old after all. He had recently gotten a pacemaker due to his erratic heartbeat, so the couple almost pulled out of the trip. Unfortunately, when they tried to get their money back for airfare, they couldn't. And because Leo started feeling better, they decided to go anyway. Let's dive into the facts in this case after a word from our sponsors. On November 13th, 2001, Leo and Virginia's daughter dropped them off at the airport to fly to Costa Rica. She remembered telling her dad she loved him, and last saw him sitting down, putting his shoes back on after going through security. The couple traveled often, and no one was worried about them taking this trip. They would meet up with their group of 31 other volunteers from the United States, Canada, and Ireland, painting recently constructed schools and churches in a suburb of San Jose. They spent their first few days working with the group, and on November 18th, the group was on their way to the northern part of the country to continue their mission work when they decided to stop at Tabacon Hot Springs Resort to grab some lunch and spend an hour or two relaxing off the bus before continuing their journey. Virginia wanted to wade into a few of the pools, but Leo didn't want to, so he sat down to rest on a bench near the bus. There were no indications of health problems or mental issues, and Leo was acting normal and talkative. He just wasn't in the mood to get in the water. After about 30 minutes, Virginia walked back to the bench she last saw Leo, but he was gone. There was no sign of him anywhere. And this was completely out of character for Leo. He was not the type to wander around on his own. Virginia immediately started searching for her husband, and alerted the others in the group that he was missing. Several employees at the resort remembered seeing him about 10 to 15 minutes before Virginia started searching for him. They said they spoke to Leo, who was asking about his wife, looking for her. Leo then walked to the security guards at the gate and asked them if he could leave the resort. They told him yes, opened the gate, and he started walking down the road. Now, the security guards didn't think anything was out of the ordinary, because guests often walk down the road to visit additional hot springs nearby. But guys, that was the last sighting of Leo Widicker. Immediately, his family knew something was wrong. His daughter later told the media, "He wouldn't go for a walk. That's not my dad. He walked rather slowly, and if he left the resort, he must have gotten picked up by someone." She also said that her father would not have walked off the road. Not only was it out of character for Leo to go for a walk like that alone, but it was pouring down rain at the time, as it often is in that tropical part of the country. So it's definitely odd that he would go on a walk off the resort. And within 15 minutes, someone from the group took a car and drove several miles down that road searching for Leo, but they found no trace of him. One side of the road was a volcanic embankment and jungle, while on the other side there was a fence. But there was no reason Leo would have walked off the road, especially in the pouring rain. No one could figure out where Leo could have been headed, especially because he only had about $4 on him and didn't even carry a wallet. Right away, there was a massive search for many days. Local hunters who knew the terrain got involved. Leo's relatives showed up and searched relentlessly. Costa Rican Red Cross volunteers and employees from the resort all looked for Leo, but they found absolutely nothing. His daughter Joanne and son Rod flew to Costa Rica and stayed for 12 days, along with other family members and friends. They did everything they could to find Leo or some kind of clue, but there was never anything found. Now, with no clues, his son-in-law Delvin Hansen told the media, "The frustrating part is we have not a clue where he was or what happened." After Leo went missing, Virginia continued to work with Maranatha volunteers. Her last project was in 2015 in Salvador, Brazil. She died at the age of 96 on Sunday, May 7th, 2023, without ever finding out what happened to her beloved husband, Leo Widicker. The Widicker family farm is still operating in North Dakota. And in the 23 years since Leo went missing, he was never found. Not his body, not any clothing. Absolutely nothing at all. As if he vanished into thin air. But like all mysterious missing persons cases, there are some theories about what might have happened. So, what happened to Leo Widicker? Because Leo was 86 years old when he went missing in 2001, there's no longer a chance he'd be found alive. But that doesn't make his disappearance any less tragic or any less of a cold case that needs to be solved. Family members believe Leo may have fallen asleep on that bench and woken up confused, which prompted him to look for his wife. Because this is something the family felt might have happened, it could mean it's happened before, although that's not mentioned in any of the source material for this case. At his age, the early stages of dementia are quite possible, and being in an unfamiliar place could have exacerbated it. Or he might have had another medical issue, like a mini stroke. And in his confusion, he may have actually ended up hiding from searchers. If he wandered off the road or further into the jungle to hide, he could have easily gotten lost and perished in the elements. And simply getting lost and not hearing searchers, or wandering farther than anyone thought he could have, is a strong possibility. They never found a body, but in the dark, densely overgrown, uneven, swampy environment of a tropical rainforest, they may never find a body. There are also bogs scattered throughout the jungles around Arnol because of the volcanic activity. And there would be very little left of his body after just a couple weeks or so. because the conditions in a jungle can massively expedite the decomposition process, and the bones are often scattered by wildlife. But either way, if it had only been 15 minutes since he walked out of the gate, a vigorous walking pace for a healthy and younger person, not even an 86-year-old, only puts him at no more than a mile from the gate. Unless he wasn't walking. Some think he was accidentally hit by a car and fell down the hill into the jungle where he died. Or he was accidentally hit by a car and the driver was afraid they'd get in trouble, so they took his body and dumped it far from the accident site. It was raining that day. But I think if there was a car accident, they would have found something. Blood, tire marks, car parts, something that would show there'd been an accident, and nothing was found. Others think he was picked up by someone in a vehicle who did him harm or gave him a ride to another area where he perished from either foul play or misadventure. I can see this as a possible theory. He was possibly confused in walking down the road. A good Samaritan picked him up, seeing that he was in the rain. Maybe they took him to a nearby town and he didn't realize who he was, or had a medical emergency and died, and no one realized who he was. He only had a few dollars on him and no wallet, so it's unlikely he had any identification either. Or, being an elderly American tourist, someone that wished to harm him could have picked him up, perhaps a kidnapping or robbery gone wrong, and at his age, he just didn't make it. Because there were just no clues, and the search started so quickly after he was last seen, I think he could have been picked up along the road. Even with all the possible theories, there are no answers in this case. And at this point, there may never be answers. But if someone does know anything, or saw something, and they haven't come forward yet, I hope now is the time they do. I think it's amazing that Leo and Virginia did so much traveling in their 70s and 80s, and I really hope to follow in their footsteps. So let's go through some safety tips to follow if you're a traveling senior. First, plan ahead. And really, this is a good safety tip for anyone at any age. As you get older, you should consider your needs and limitations. How far can you walk? Do you need different types of accommodations for your energy level? Do you need to eat or take medications at a certain time? Do you have a specific diet you need to follow? I often stay in hostels that aren't necessarily the most comfortable or convenient. And I'm 46. As I get older and travel, I realize that a comfortable sleeping arrangement can sometimes make a big difference in my schedule. And I'm also vegan, which can put some limitations on my food choices when I travel. So I always take that into consideration as well. And your transportation schedule. Opt for direct flights to reduce the stress and physical exertion of layovers and transfers. Be sure to stretch your legs and stay hydrated while traveling. Try to pack light. Know all your travel details. Be prepared for TSA rules and get there early. Request wheelchair assistance or any other special needs in advance when booking flights and accommodations. And choose accommodations that are easily accessible, preferably with elevators or ground floor rooms and close to amenities. Second, make sure you're prepared with health and medical care. Consult with a doctor before traveling. Have a checkup and discuss your travel plans with your doctor. Make sure you have any necessary vaccinations and that your medications are up to date. Bring a list of all your medications, medical conditions, and emergency contact information. And if necessary, consider wearing a medical alert bracelet. Be sure you have paper copies of any medical documents you might need while traveling. Make sure you carry enough medication for the entire trip, plus a few extra days in case of delays. Keep medications in their original containers and be sure to pack them in your carry-on luggage. Do not check your medication in case your checked luggage arrives late or is even lost. Consider purchasing travel insurance that covers healthcare and emergency evacuation, especially if you're traveling internationally. Different countries have different healthcare options, and you don't want to be in a health crisis and not be able to get the care you need. Third, go easy on yourself. Wear supportive and comfortable shoes, especially if you plan to do a lot of walking. Take regular breaks to rest and hydrate, especially in warm climates or high altitudes. And don't hesitate to ask for help. Use canes, walkers, or other mobility aids if you need to. And my last tip for seniors is to look for those senior discounts. Many places, from museums to airlines and hotels, offer senior discounts. Make sure you carry your ID to take advantage of lower prices. And don't be shy about asking staff at tourist sites and booking agents if they offer a discounted rate. Many places offer discounts to seniors but don't advertise it. But trust me, you deserve that discount. AARP has lists of travel discounts for seniors if you join, so that's a great place to start. Beyond that, there are hotel discounts, flight discounts, train discounts, car rental discounts, cruise discounts, and admission discounts for seniors. One of my favorites is that U.S. citizens aged 62 and older who love national parks can purchase a senior annual pass for only $20 or a senior lifetime pass for $80, and that offers access to thousands of national parks and recreation sites. If you're not very tech savvy, make sure you know how to stay connected to friends and family. If you're bringing your smartphone, make sure you know how to get on Wi-Fi. Call your phone carrier and let them know you're going to be traveling internationally. Download maps offline in case you need them. And put your emergency contacts in your phone where you can easily access them. Some specific tips for Costa Rica and other tropical locations include checking the weather and being prepared, using insect repellent for mosquitoes to avoid things like dengue fever and Zika virus. Wear sunscreen, hats, and sunglasses to protect against the sun. Use a money belt or neck wallet to keep passports, money, and important documents secure. Be cautious with your personal belongings in crowded places. And avoid walking alone at night and stay in well-lit and populated areas. And remember, no matter where you're traveling, make sure you inform someone about your plans before going anywhere. Tell someone reliable where you're going and what you'll be doing and when to expect you back. And my number one tip to staying alive on vacation is to pay attention to your gut. If something doesn't feel right, it isn't. Leo Widicker went missing on November 18, 2001, while visiting the Tabacon Hot Springs in Costa Rica. He was there with his wife of 55 years and a tour group that was helping to build and paint churches and schools in the country. While his wife Virginia waited in the pools for about 30 minutes, Leo sat on a bench near the bus to relax. But when Virginia came back, he had disappeared. She soon found out that he was possibly searching for her when he left the resort and walked down the road. But from there, the trail ended, and no trace of Leo was ever found. He was 86 years old at the time of his disappearance. Caucasian, bald, blue eyes, wearing glasses, 5 feet 6 inches tall, and about 145 pounds. He had a hearing impairment and wore hearing aids in both ears, and he suffered from unspecified medical problems. He may have also been disoriented at the time of his disappearance. He was wearing a white baseball cap, jeans, black shoes, a red and blue plaid shirt, a blue jacket, and name tag. If you have any information about what may have happened to Leo Widicker, please call your local authorities or the United States Embassy in San Jose, Costa Rica at 011-506-220-3939. And finally, remember to leave a review and rate this podcast 5 stars if you like the show, or hell, even if you don't. But either way, feel free to let me know what you think. Please follow The Last Trip on Instagram at The Last Trip Crime Pod. and subscribe on Patreon to support the show. You'll get extra research, videos, photos, and updates, and even learn more about my personal travels. That's patreon.com/thelasttrippodcast. I'm Jamie Beebe, bringing you your last trip and signing off until the next one. Thanks for listening.